Well, ladies and gentlemen, I did it. It took me a long time, but I finally did it. I found the most annoying woman on the internet. There's a lot of them. They're constantly competing. I'm more annoying. But I found her. And I will guarantee you that you cannot find me someone more annoying than this woman who has made it her job to problematize every single wedding dress that she comes across because it's racist, misogynistic. And now she's going after Olivia Culpo, I guess because she's Christian and loves her husband and is too traditional. Plus, later on in the show, we'll cover Andrew and Tristan Tate. They have regained even more of their freedom. They can now move throughout the EU. But first, let's talk about Sean Combs. Yeah, Diddy. Why is he still not in prison? I'm asking for a friend who still believes that he's a federal asset. All that and more coming up on Candace. So it's pretty obvious there's some sort of a gang operating in Hollywood, and there always has been one. And it's also pretty obvious that the mainstream media is basically just falling over themselves to hide that glaring obvious fact because they are part and parcel of that gang, hence the reason they are oddly quiet or protective when it comes to the Diddy case. Referring, of course, to Sean Combs, known once as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy. I don't know what year you grew up in. He changes his name very often. But he is facing new sex trafficking allegations in a lawsuit that was filed by a former porn star. Now, I want to recap this because I was hot on this case before I got taken off air. And sometimes I wonder, the media just sort of totally flipped on me until they wanted to turn me into a bad guy. If it's partially due to me having covered this case in a way that most mainstream media members refuse to. So let's quickly recap. We had last year Cassie Ventura, who dated Diddy for over 10 years, come forward with allegations that he had committed rape when he got mad at her, battery, that he had forced her into sex acts with male sex workers. But she also alleged that he was a gangster, that he had once bombed the car of fellow rapper Kid Cudi when he got mad because Kid Cudi and Cassie were dating when her and Diddy were on a break. So he did this in an effort to intimidate him. Now, to be clear, Kid Cudi came out and told the New York Times in a statement that that allegation was true. Cassie also alleged that Diddy had once dangled a friend over a 17th floor balcony, another intimidation tactic, and that he had asked her to carry his gun in her purse. So yeah, she's saying, I dated this man. He is a thug. He is a gangster. And immediately Diddy came out and completely denied this. He tried to kind of get this filed under Me Too. Oh, I would never do this. Well, an update, I was off air when this happened. I know that you guys have probably seen the video. I'm not going to show it because it's so horrific, but a video of Diddy absolutely pummeling Cassie came out. You could just watch Diddy in the video beating her to a pulp. It looks like they're in some sort of a hotel. And obviously, he's got to be king to have the audacity to drag her by her hair down a hallway and to beat her in the manner that he did, knowing essentially that there would be no punishment, that he could do this and then years later deny it, as he did when she came out in her lawsuit against him. So, of course, there was no denying it once this clip made its way around the internet. People were outraged, as they should have been. And Diddy then offered an apology. Take a quick listen.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry.
He's so sorry. Don't you believe him? I got to be honest, I'm struggling to believe him because, yeah, he at first denied all of her allegations publicly. He then quietly settled the case without coming forward and saying that anything that she had said was true. But then once the video became public, of course, he's a different man. Now he does remember beating her to a pulp, and he does remember then going to rehab, allegedly, for having beat her to a pulp. And now he is just so disgusted with himself. Again, is there a buyer out there? Because I am not one of them. But that's not all. Don't forget, last year, the case that I was following was when a producer filed a very, I would just say, it was addled with a lot of evidence and a lot of proof as to his allegations. That producer's name was Rodney Jones. He goes by Lil Rod. And yes, he was one of Diddy's producers. He stepped forward and dropped really what can only be described as the mother of all bombs in the form of a lawsuit, not just against Diddy, but also against Universal Music Group. And why I'm describing this as the mother of all bombs is because he included pictorial evidence of what painted the picture of a homosexual blackmail ring. Okay, so using sex, collecting blackmail on certain individuals in the industry so that you can therefore control him. Now, there were a lot of stunning pieces of evidence in that case filing, but I will tell you that for me, the heaviest allegation that I thought, if I'm just reading this, this seems very valid, came in the form of pictures from a scene in which Little Rob describes Diddy having allegedly, along with one of his sons, potentially shooting someone. The producer says that he was in the bathroom right when it happened, next to the shooting, but he was terrified as he was in the bathroom. And when he came out after Diddy had shot someone, he was tasked with cleaning it. He, again, produced a picture where you can see blood all around. You can see paper trying to clean up the blood, and you just go, okay, all of these paper towels, all of this blood, what then happened? Well, he says that everybody that works for Diddy is instructed that if they ever get themselves in this sort of a situation, there's a cleanup guy that you're supposed to call. He names that man as Fahim Muhammad. And Fahim Muhammad will then get the correct LAPD officer over to the scene to produce a fake police report. Very strong allegations, right? And you might go, oh, wow, well, maybe this producer's telling the truth, maybe he's not. Well, what he then shows is that despite the fact that someone in those pictures, at least if those pictures are to be believed, was shot inside of a recording studio, the LAPD police officer took down a report of a drive-by shooting. And then subsequently the next day, the media, or in the coming days, reported a drive-by shooting. But of course, he's saying that's not what happened at all. They know that's not what happened at all. But clearly, this ring has a lot of power. They've got police officers on their payroll. And by the way, in the event that you believe that that's an implausibility in LA, then please do what I have been begging you all to do and read that book, Chaos, because it is exactly that. It describes a network of police officers, prosecutors, and of course, media members who are on the inside of these sorts of things. It describes very much a ring that took place when the Charles Manson, quote unquote, murders happened back in the 60s. So we're just bringing this forward in the form of the Diddy case, the same exact allegations. And most shocking of all was that man, Fahim Muhammad, which I showed on my show, was also one of two people that was there when Michael Jackson died. Yes, one of two people that was there. Somehow that guy was very young when Michael Jackson died, but got this job as the top security person for MJ. And now he is working as a top security person for Diddy. It, again, as I brought up, leads people to revisit those questions and the things that Michael Jackson was saying towards the ends of his life when he was also describing a ring of people in Hollywood. Essentially a gang that is running Hollywood, and a gang that he said was pursuing him, a gang that it is believed lied and convinced the public that he was a pedophile, despite the fact that he was found not guilty of those allegations. Essentially, because he was going after them, they began going after him, if you believe that. Now, again, I find it very strange that this character, Fahim Muhammad, would have contacts, allegedly, with the LAPD, and the media just doesn't seem interested in that whatsoever, despite, again, an overwhelming amount of evidence being supplied in the form of pictures. What the producer describes, by the way, is that Diddy was the person who was supposed to have these parties, to invite young artists, to drug them without them knowing that they were being drugged. They think they're drinking, there's drugs. And then he would get them to commit sex acts. Now, whether that was against women, or whether that was against men, once he would be recording them having done these sex acts, he would then forever control them. Again, a blackmail ring that sounds exactly carbon copy to what Jeffrey Epstein was doing to politicians, right? Great way to get control. Now you can run DC, you can run Hollywood, because we got you one night doing this on camera, and now I own you. Now, stepping aside from the producer's allegations, there were other people who had publicly alleged that this is what was going on in Hollywood, Cat Williams being one of them. Take a listen to what he said to Shannon Sharpe on his podcast. And this is before the producer had dropped his lawsuit. Take a listen.
I'm quite likely to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Now, I've had to turn down $50 million 4 times. 4 times. Just to protect my integrity and that virgin hole I was telling you about. Right. Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did. See, I got the receipts for everything I'm telling you. That's why I can say them so freely.
Kid, I need to know. You here, get your number.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All of these big dick deviants is all catching hell in 2024. It's up for all of them. It don't matter if you Diddy or whoever you is. T.G. Jakes, any of them. All lies will be exposed. That's all. And anyone who takes that the wrong way, know why they take it the wrong way. The truth is the light.
I need to have another one of these.
Amen, amen.
Gee.
So Cat Williams said it. The lawsuit started coming out right after he said it, and he said all would be exposed. And I should make it clear that in this lawsuit, the reason why Universal Music Group is being sued by Lil Rod is because he alleges that it's them that is sitting at the top of this ring. So essentially, Diddy is working for somebody else, and that person that he named in his lawsuit was Lucien Grange. He heavily implied, and this is again an allegation, that Lucien Grange was having some sort of a homosexual relationship with Diddy. So he is the person that controls Diddy, that Lucien Grange was aware of these parties, that Universal Music Group was aware of these parties, essentially that Diddy is the thug and the gangster working on behalf of Lucien Grange. That is the takeaway that you get when you read this lawsuit. So how odd that rather than the media being unbelievably interested, as I was, completely seized by this lawsuit, as I was, rather than them asking questions about Fahim, asking questions about Lucien Grange, who's got a very interesting past, changed his name. I don't tend to trust men that change their last names, least of all 3 times, as his family has done. Rather than any of that, they started attacking me for reading the lawsuit, for putting together the clips. How dare you say that there's some sort of a ring? How dare you say, despite the fact that Diddy still has not been arrested. In fact, the LA County is declining to press charges. Despite having the video evidence of him beating Cassie, they are not pressing any charges. How dare I allege that it's pretty obvious that he's an asset? He's clearly a federal asset. That's the only way you can do these sorts of things in broad daylight. You can blow up cars, beat women, and all you have to do is do a video that says, I'm really sorry. He's clearly being protected by somebody who has more power than him and likely has access to the government. How dare Candace Owens say that? You can't say, Lucien Grange is Jewish, by the way. You definitely can't ever allege that a Jewish person was ever in a gang, even though Jewish gangs were running Hollywood and Las Vegas and New York for a while. But we've closed that chapter, and now you can't say any of it. Can't talk about any of those people. Am I living in a crazy planet? I mean, seriously, what is happening right now that you see people in the media that are somehow trying to sweep this under a rug as if it's all a conspiracy theory, as if all of the evidence, people that are speaking out, Diddy's own apology alleging some of the actions, what are all these people, just liars? They're all liars. This can't possibly be happening. And as I said, and the first time I covered this, what's interesting about this lawsuit is it alleges that Diddy was smart enough to understand that he needed to record the people that he was working for. So that unbeknownst to them, while Diddy was recording other people, he also was recording them. Lil Rod alleges that when Lucien and Diddy used to disappear into Diddy's bedroom, that Lucien did not know that Diddy had cameras installed in his bedroom. So it's likely that Diddy has got blackmail on the blackmailers. Well, it's plausible, I should say, that Diddy, if all of this pans out to be true, has blackmail on the blackmailers. And perhaps that is the reason why they are slow to prosecute him. Now, again, I'm just putting two and two together. But why is the media not doing the exact same thing? Instead, what they're doing is their favorite course of action. They're calling everything a conspiracy theory. Just like Piers Morgan did when he rushed to yell at me about talking about Diddy being a Fed asset, even though he admits he didn't even read the lawsuit. Take a listen.
Again, you're being disingenuous because actually you're stating it as fact.
No, what I'm telling people
in the same way you say, I state my entire reputation and Brigitte Macron's a man, you also stated this fact, nothing from a lawsuit. You just said he's not in jail, you tweeted, because he's a Fed CIA asset. Kanye tried to tell everybody.
Have you read the lawsuit? Because it seems like you haven't, obviously.
But that's your statement.
No. Did you read the lawsuit? That's the first thing, because we can skip the hyperbole. Did you read the lawsuit?
I'm asking you.
Okay, then we're not going to talk about this topic. So no, he didn't read the lawsuit, but he wants to make sure that I'm not saying that he is a federal asset. And he's not the only one. This has kind of been the perspective. Everyone's a conspiracy theorist that reads the lawsuit. Ben Shapiro also had some similar commentary. Take a listen.
Now, bottom line is that the feds obviously are going to fully investigate this. Now, you're seeing a lot of conspiracy theories out there today, and it's always the same people who participate. It is odd how if you believe one conspiracy theory, you tend to believe literally all the conspiracy theories. That is the way this tends to work. And all the conspiracy theories tend to center around unnamed, unspecified people who are manipulating the system. And it can't just be that there are evil people who are participating in many evil things at any given time around the world, as they all are in cahoots with each other and there is some grand master scheme. And that all this is a way of shutting Diddy up before he can speak about his paymasters. Okay, well, when the evidence of that emerges, then let me know. Alternatively, P. Diddy is an incredibly rich, incredibly famous celebrity who's been able to sexually gallivant as he pleases for literally 30 years, and then he got caught doing it in criminal ways, which seems pretty plausible to me. I don't see why you need a conspiracy theory to exactly explain that one. But for folks who are conspiratorially minded, the answer is always the same. There's a conspiracy that explains everything. That is, frankly, a very peculiar way to live, that there's always a monster in the closet lurking behind the real monster. Maybe Diddy is just the monster. Maybe it's just that. You don't always need a conspiracy to explain everything, folks. In fact, you very rarely do.
So I think I've talked about this in the past, and I just wholeheartedly disagree with everything that he just said there, because it's not a conspiracy when we are actually reading the lawsuit and looking at all the evidence. And the person did, in fact, name names. He named Lucien Grange as being the person that sat at the top of the ring and said that he was present when Lucien Grange would come over and go to Diddy's room. So I'm just not clear on the definition of conspiracy. But what I do know is that the history of using that term conspiracy theorist was something that was cooked up by the CIA as an effort to dispel rumors regarding JFK's death. So they recognize that if you keep calling people a conspiracy theorist and you keep saying it's a conspiracy, that people may shy away from the topic. I don't suffer from that. I want to know what's going on, as should every single person in this country, because there should be no individual in the entire world that can beat a woman on camera and not face any charges. That is just an utter insanity. It begs the question as to what is actually going on in Hollywood. And I think the answer is that Hollywood has been being run by a gang with a very long arm, an arm that reaches all the way into the government for a very long time. And so I'm urging people to wake up to these facts and not to be dissuaded because, Piers Morgan says, I'm not going to read the lawsuit, but neither should you. Maybe it's time for us all to start believing our own eyes and believing our own ears and listening to the many people in Hollywood who have tried to speak out about a ring, who have tried to speak out about a gang that is controlling the actions of everyone. Maybe let's stop calling those people who are suffering at the hands of those individuals conspiracy theorists. Maybe they're just victims. That's all I'm going to say about that topic. Speaking of victimhood, according to a recent report, Planned Parenthood continues to rake in billions despite dwindling clientele. The biggest takeaway is that Planned Parenthood is generating vast profits, including millions in taxpayer funding. But with preborn, and that's you and me, we can actively steal their clientele, meaning we get the chance right now to save babies that they are trying to kill. Preborn operates in a very slim budget, rescuing over 200 babies' lives every single day with no government funding. Preborn's network of clinics are situated in the darkest corners of the nation, competing head-to-head with the abortion giants, and they need our help now more than ever. When you donate just $28, literally just $28 to Preborn, you will offer a free ultrasound to an expectant mother that is caught in a crisis. And for those of us who are parents, you know that once you hear that precious heartbeat and you recognize, yes, this is in fact a life, you would never allow anything to happen to that child. And the truth is that when you give that to an expectant mother, her baby's chance at life doubles. So please sponsor a precious baby's life today. Your tax-deductible gift will go directly towards saving babies' lives. You just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. That's pound 250 baby. Or you can go to preborn.com/Candace. That's preborn.com/Candace. Okay, now it's time to get into some stories. Now, before we get into this first story, I'm just reminding you guys to hit the subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, we are so close to 2 million subs. I can almost feel it. Okay, so I did not expect to find this human on the internet. Honestly, it is amazing. It is something to be seen. I often think that there's just no way that women can become more annoying. Like we have to own it. We've become the most unbearable, annoying, naggy. I just can't deal with the things that women are complaining about on the internet, crying on the internet. But all of this, of course, is because you want attention. And you want attention because you're typically virtue signaling about something. Well, I did it, you guys. I found the most annoying person ever. Her name is Kennedy Bingham, okay? Now, I'm just going to give you a little teaser of what Kennedy Bingham does. She alleges that she's a stylist, a content creator, and a bridal expert that is based in Los Angeles. So if you are getting a dress and you are getting married, you want to consult Kennedy Bingham. But consult her for what? Take a listen.
People claim to care about people of color and the queer community and then actively participate in dupe culture. I don't think you can do both. Duping is stealing. A dupe is meant to trick people into thinking you have the real thing. First and foremost, copying and stealing credit from something is at its core a form of erasure. If we're talking about monetary power in the United States, that is mainly controlled by white people. If you're going to copy someone and try and get away with it, are you going to go after someone who's super powerful and can make your life a living hell for it? Or are you going to go after the people who probably can't do anything if you steal from them anyways? Probably the latter. This means that the groups most likely to be stolen from are marginalized groups, and in the United States, that's people of color and queer communities. So by actively promoting dupe culture, you are saying that you are okay with these communities being taken advantage of.
Yes, she's a real person. It's not AI. You heard that. If you are duping, then women of color and Black people and I don't know, but they're going to be very upset. Of course, this isn't true. This is just how it works today now, where people are speaking on behalf of Black people. Black people don't actually feel this thing. She's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. They're the worst kinds of people because they pretend they are doing things on behalf of a people or on behalf of a culture who do not care. Who does she think loves to dupe probably the most? Black people. Honestly, my cousins, they dupe. They'll be like, oh, I saw this couch. It looks like the one from Restoration Hardware. I'm going to buy it because it's 30 times cheaper. And you're not buying a dupe because you're thinking, oh my gosh, I really want to hurt a Black person. You're buying a dupe because it's cheaper and you can't afford to buy the big thing that's being created at Restoration Hardware. Who cares? How does someone actually do this? How does somebody create a video saying that you are wrong for trying to save money and get things that you enjoy stylistically? Like you absolutely are now required to buy the actual Gucci dress as opposed to buying something that's in a similar style that looks like it could be a dupe of it. That's what she does for a living. And so she decided to do a video regarding Olivia Culpo's dress. Now, it has been very strange to see so many people speaking out about her dress. And it begs the question if it has something to do with the fact that Olivia Culpo is not like a deranged lefty. Like I just happen to think that if Olivia Culpo was, I don't know, marrying a woman and pledging to trans her children, then people would be like, hey, wait a second. She's the most amazing, beautiful person in the entire world. But because Olivia Culpo is marrying a Christian, his name is literally Christian McCaffrey, they just got married, it seems like they want something not to like about her, even though she is, by and large, she's known to be one of the kindest people ever within Hollywood. She's very kind. She's never done anything mean to any person. You never hear about Olivia Culpo has a beef with anyone, but that's not enough, of course, because she should be tripping over herself to be woke. So take a listen to what Kennedy Bingham, your content creator, creating content that is unbearable, had to say about Olivia Culpo's dress.
I have been a bridal creator for 4 years now, and I have never said this before, but I do not like this wedding dress. If I were to just look at the dress, I would see a beautiful bride in a beautiful, simple, elegant dress. If we stopped there at just the way the dress looks, we'd really have nothing to say. But it's all the stuff surrounding the dress that leaves kind of a bitter aftertaste. She said two things. First of all, she says, I didn't want to exude sex in any way. The second thing she says is she wanted the dress to be as serious as she takes the covenant of marriage. Now listen, there is nothing wrong with wanting a modest wedding dress or just modest attire in general. But the way that she was talking about this went beyond just wanting something modest for herself and pushing this idea of what she thinks all brides should look like. First and foremost, you could get married in your underwear and be taking your marriage vows very seriously. What you wear on your wedding day has almost nothing to do with whether or not you're going to have a long and happy marriage. She even says that her husband thinks she's the most beautiful when she's timeless, covered, and elegant. I just think the usage of the word covered is so icky because you are not covered in day-to-day life. And also, why is he thinking that you're the most beautiful when you're covered? That's such an odd thing. All celebrity weddings will have a little bit of marketing sprinkled in there. I just think it's really odd that instead of marketing herself, she's like marketing and pushing this conservative agenda. You went with Dolce & Gabbana, who is not someone who's known for modesty and also is kind of one of the worst people ever. Stefano and Dolce & Gabbana in general have participated in every ism and phobia that you can think of. It's very clear that this was not a wedding. This was a conservative campaign.
So she just hates Christians. That's what she's trying to say. There was nothing wrong really with the dress other than the fact that the person wearing it said that she believed in the sacrament of marriage, that she wanted to make sure that she looked modest for her husband. And that just cannot be allowed. That cannot fly in this new world that we are creating. Like she said, you can get married in your underwear. It doesn't matter anymore because marriage means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. Anybody can do it. Anybody can have it. And shame on Olivia Culpo for being traditional. That's actually what she's saying. There is such a deep-seated hatred for Christians in this country, and it's something that we don't talk about often enough. Like people that are just living their life the right way, people that are kind people that go to church, people that believe in God, that want to honor their husbands, that want to be modest, are people that are routinely mocked. And that's exactly what this woman is doing. And as I said, she is unbearable. Christian McCaffrey decided to comment beneath this disturbing post because this woman is clearly just disturbed because she hates Christians. And he wrote this: "What an evil thing to post online. I hope you can find joy and peace in the world the way my beautiful wife does." And you're not going to believe what she commented back. You're probably thinking she can't plausibly be more unbearable, but she is. She wrote this: "So what's evil is pointing out the potential internalized misogyny behind her reasoning, your, in my opinion, patriarchal comment, and the racist, homophobic, fatphobic history of the designers she worked with?" Question mark. I don't know if you can fit in any more isms in that. It's just like misogyny, it's racist, it's homophobic, it's fatphobic, and you're a part of the patriarchy. This woman sucks. She just absolutely sucks. There's no other way to say it. Everyone should reject her. I don't even know who she's performing for at this point. I don't think that there's a single person left or right who dislikes Olivia Culpo. And every woman on their wedding day should be made to feel good. I mean, I don't care, even if you are a radical leftist and I hate what you stand for. Why would it behoove me to go after a person on their wedding day to say something nasty about them, something nasty about their dress, simply because she gave a statement that she wanted to be modest for her husband? Again, this woman is miserable, and I will just go ahead and say that I think Christian McCaffrey and Olivia Culpo are just being way too nice here, because I would have dragged her into tomorrow. Now, speaking of having good values, totally okay to have good traditional values. When I announced my new show a few months ago, one of the first companies who called to support us was the Tuttle Twins. They know my audience includes a lot of moms and dads who love freedom and want to preserve it for their children, and they obviously want to offer you their books. The Tuttle Twins books take complex ideas about economics, business, and political philosophy and put them into stories that anyone can understand. Here is just one example. It's one of my favorite books. The Tuttle Twins learn about the Golden Rule. In this story, the twins learn the difference between self-defense, justice, and revenge, and also how to get themselves out of an endless cycle of blowback. It's a fun story about personal conflict resolution, but also it's about America's failing foreign policy, a topic I'm especially passionate about. That's just one example of 13 books in this series. Other topics include inflation, investment, entrepreneurship, and law. If you're paying attention at all, you can see our civilization is being dismantled and our freedoms are being eroded. We want to push back to preserve something for your children and grandchildren. We all need to better understand the principles that we're fighting for. The Tuttle Twins books will help with that. And right now you can get all 13 books for a special deal at TuttleTwins.com/Candace. The discount for my viewers will be applied at checkout, and you'll pay around $70 for over 700 fully illustrated pages. These books are like nothing else you'll find, and they really will transform the way that you see the world and empower your children with the knowledge to navigate it. So go support the Tuttle Twins, guys. Support your kids and support The Candace Show. Place your order at TuttleTwins.com/Candace. So in my view, people like Kennedy Bingham, like women who just go on the internet and nag and nag and nag and call everything the patriarchy, they are the reason that the Tate brothers exist. You cannot take these away from each other. I am telling you, it was radical feminism that is spawning this movement of men who are like, no, we need to return to masculinity. We will not apologize for being a man. And the Tate brothers appeared and they took up the mantle. And that's why they say things like, women are horrible. Look at this example of a woman. Do not date these sorts of women. I'm not kidding. You cannot extract these individuals from one another. Radical feminism is the reason that you are seeing men pushing back on those ideas. People fundamentally hate the Tate brothers so much because of their rhetoric that they were actually applauding and hoping that they would be sent away in prison to Romania, not based on what they actually did, but based on who they feel they are. Essentially, you're guilty because we think you're perpetrators of the patriarchy, so I don't care what the charges are trumped up against you, I just want you to be put in prison. And I stood up against this because I actually looked at the case, and the case that was brought against them in Romania, in my view, after having read through the files, is absolute crap. They did not belong to be put in prison for, 3 months? They were just put into a cell, and there were no charges brought against them at all at that moment. They were just looking for charges. It was essentially one of those old school, show me the man, I'll show you the crime. And they sat there not knowing when they were ever going to be let out. Then they were let out and they continued to look for the charges. And then they finally drummed some up about human sex trafficking. But when you look into the case, the woman that is the source of the case, when you read her text messages on that day, quite literally, this woman was just trying to get a free flight from another man, and she lied and said that she was kidnapped. And then she freaked out when that man actually contacted authorities. She freaked out and was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. I didn't want this to happen. So if you believe this woman in her own words, what happened to the Tate brothers on that day was wrong. And I said that on my platform and people got angry. Candace, how could you as a Christian? Andrew Tate is not out there saying, follow me as a Christian man. But he is another person, just like Donald Trump, who should not have to face charges on the basis of people disliking him. That is my opinion. We need a justice system that actually works everywhere, and it cannot be based on your personal feelings. So I am not surprised that after another hearing, the Tate brothers, who were once restricted, first they were on house arrest, then they removed those restrictions and allowed them to move around Romania, and now those restrictions have been moved and they are allowed to move around the EU. They have to remain in the EU, but they are at least regaining more of their freedom leading up to the trial. And they are still facing charges of human trafficking, but those charges do very much seem to be falling apart, as all of the women, almost virtually all of the women that were listed, barring that one woman, have said, I was not sex trafficked by the Tate brothers. They have come out in their defense, and they said that pressure was put on them to say otherwise, and they're refusing to do that. Again, look into the case yourself and remember that your personal feelings about somebody and their rhetoric does not dictate whether or not they should be in prison. Actual evidence based on the facts of the case and the charges brought against them should be the only reason that any person is locked up. By the way, guys, I do also want to mention, so many of you guys had reached out and said, where is episode 18? I did this whole episode on the origins of NASA being satanic and that these people that were performing sex rituals were behind the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, which eventually became the Apollo program. Yeah, no, YouTube took it down. They just straight up banned the video under the grounds that later on in the episode we had covered BET. We were within the confines of what YouTube says. You can show a 1-minute clip, but they completely blocked the video and said, under copyright grounds, which is absurd because normally they allow you to just edit that portion out. So we are out to them about that. I think it was done unjustly. I also think it's highly suspicious. But in the interim, we have re-released that episode with just the monologue, and we removed the BET portion back onto the YouTube channel yesterday. So you can still find that while it's still up. So you better go watch that satanic NASA episode. Completely absurd. As I also want to tell you about American financing, and the reason I want to tell you that is because many people right now are taking a step back instead of moving forward financially. The bills are higher than what they've been in the past. You're swiping the credit card to cover the difference, and the debt seems to just keep magically adding up. But if you own a home, my friends at American Financing can help you break free from that cycle. American Financing is saving people just like you an average of $854 a month, and you can really imagine what you can do with an extra $800 every single month and not having to worry about those minimum monthly payments. And even better, it costs nothing to find out how much you can save. All it takes is a quick call to American Financing, and if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call American Financing today and start your journey towards being credit card debt-free. That's 800-795-1210. Again, 800-795-1210. Or you can simply visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. All right, now let's get into some of your comments regarding episodes past. On the topic of the satanic NASA episode, this actually made me laugh so hard, this comment. This person wrote, "I was more comfortable hearing about satanic rituals than listening to Kamala Harris at the BET Awards." That is so true. It was just so cringy. I think that's part of the reason they're getting all crazy. They don't want that clip on the internet because, once again, Black people just did not accept the pander. They thought it was absolutely ridiculous. And so it did not have the desired effect. Really just such an embarrassing thing for them to have done. Thank you, JP writes, "Independent media has changed my entire life. It's extremely painful to swallow, but once your eyes have been opened, you will never be the same again. It's so important to step away from the mainstream. That's media, music, news, weather, everything. I wish more millennials came to that realization, especially those with children. Never stop, Candace, with love from the UK." Thank you so much. I really do hope that I am just an independent voice, and I understand that I'm constantly being made fun of and people are calling me names and they're constantly, trying to smear me in the press, but I think it's worth it because we have to be the generation of people that have the courage to face the reality of what we are living in. And what we are living in is something very deranged, something very satanic, and something very backwards, while they look at our faces and try to gaslight us and call everything a conspiracy theory. Sarah B. Frank writes, "I love it as a teenager in the 90s. We were all going down these rabbit holes and having to live in a world where we felt everyone was blind to the reality around them. Seeing it all come out to so many at once is very satisfying. Thanks, Candace, for being a voice like Tucker and talking about these taboo subjects to normalize what's really the truth. You are very welcome. And thank you guys. You guys are the ones that are sharing the videos. You guys are the ones that are making these clips go viral and waking up more people. And that's how we have to think about it. You may not be able to wake up everyone, but if you can wake up just one person, you've done your part. Make them recognize the evil that we are living within. Karen writes, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places." Ephesians 6:12. Absolutely so true. It's why I tell people to get to church. The answers I'm telling you are all in the Bible. There is nothing new under the sun. AMT writes, "The reason most don't know about these things is because most people just wait to be taught. Waiting to be taught instead of searching out these things is just another sign of societal laziness. We need more autodidacts." I totally agree with you entirely on that. And I think that it's because we are coming out of a program that we've been in from the time we were children. I mean, from kindergarten through to the 12th grade and usually beyond, you have a school system that is really just a psychological operation. And it takes so much humility to recognize that you could have been a victim to propaganda. Like, we all want to believe in ourselves enough that we would think, oh, I would never fall for something ridiculous. And the truth is you would, because you're in a crowd of people that believe it. The madness of crowds is a real thing. When a bunch of people perceive something as a reality, you're not, it's hard to be the one person to sit out and say, no, that's not what happened. But I think there's more of us now. There's more than just one person poking their head out and saying something. This person writes, I'm from Brazil and I've been following you for some years. And just to let you know, you and all these great soldiers like Tucker and others who are fighting the battle for goodness and truth are in my daily prayers. We can't do much, but if we can at least pray for your protection and wisdom, I'll do that. I always say that, people always ask how to support the show. Obviously, you can support us being independent by going to locals.com and becoming a monthly subscriber. But some people can't do that because these are hard economic times. And I always say, just pray. Just pray for us. Seriously, if you're like, oh, I don't pray, just do it. You just talk to God. You're going to be totally fine. You're not going to burst into flames. Actually, probably the exact opposite. And I am a firm believer that it is prayers around the world that have kept me safe. Lastly, from Manect, I am blowing up on Manect. I think I am very cool on Manect. People texting me, I'm sending them voice notes. Anna writes, I'm 23, living in Austria. This was my first Austrian Manect. I'm dying to marry and have 100 kids. My boyfriend and I work in my family business. We have the same values, Catholic, state skeptics, anti-vax, traditional. We save, we invest, we are insured. We've been together for 4 years. He's the love of my life. My family and many other people think I'm crazy for wanting to be a stay-at-home mom, that I'm too young, that I should instead travel, build a career, go clubbing, drink, make friends with people that don't share my values. Not be so sure of that living the traditional life will make me happy. What if something happens to your husband? If he can't handle the pressure? If you can't afford to care for your kids? Most days I'm not shaken by them, but sometimes their fears get to me. I don't want my children to be poor, living in a struggling household. Is it realistic to be a mother and a housewife when my kids will need me the most? Can you give me a little pep talk for those days since you're living the dream? God bless. My advice to you would be simply not to listen to your family, and this perfectly fits and buttons everything that we're talking about. They don't even realize that everything that they think are their original ideas, living your life, go party, those ideas have been given to them. It is an entire system of ideas that have been given to them. They have been severely propagandized into believing that to live a life in clubs, going from club to club and being single and being free and sleeping with a bunch of people means to be having fun. That's not having fun, actually. Usually when you meet those women and you are actually able to talk to them when they're not hungover, they're miserable, they're anxious because their life doesn't have any actual substance. So you can have fun when you're high, then you come down from that high and you realize that your life has become a tremendous low. The best parts of life, I say this all the time, always is family. It's everything that surrounds family, even the frustrating moments. It all comes down to family. You will never be more secure and more certain in who you are. Women blossom, absolutely blossom when they get married and they are given the security that having a man by your side provides. That is the truth. Having a real partner and realizing that you are establishing a foundation that is unshakable. And that foundation is not going to be established in a club. You are absolutely doing the right thing. And God bless you, because it's a beautiful life. All right, guys, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have for today. We will see you tomorrow.